Do you remember the grocery aisles of the 1970s, filled with colorful, quirky, and sometimes downright shocking products? Many of those items were household staples, from fizzy drinks to neon-colored snacks. Yet today, some are completely banned. They promise convenience, sweetness, and fun, but hidden behind the labels were additives and chemicals that wouldn't pass today's safety standards. Let's take a nostalgic and slightly wild trip back to 30 grocery items that defined a decade and are now off the shelves forever. Fizzy candy. Drinks. In the bustling kitchens and corner stores of the 1970s, there was a special kind of magic in a bottle of fizzy candy drink. Sweet, colorful, and impossibly effervescent, these beverages promised a small moment of joy for kids and adults alike. Imagine walking down the supermarket aisle, eyes widening at rows of neon bottles labeled with flavors that ranged from cotton candy blast to cherry rocket. They were sugar bombs with a sparkle, the kind of treat you'd savor slowly, letting the bubbles tickle your tongue, or gulp down quickly because, well, who could resist? These drinks were more than just beverages. They were a symbol of convenience and indulgence, perfectly aligned with the experimental spirit of the decade. The secret behind their charm was also their undoing. Fizzy candy drinks contained artificial colors and flavorings, and in some cases, chemical sweeteners like cyclamates, later deemed unsafe. In a time before stringent food regulations, manufacturers were free to push the boundaries of taste and appearance, creating concoctions that were almost laboratory-like in their composition. It's hard not to smile at the memory of these audacious drinks, even as we shake our heads at what went into them. Nostalgia for fizzy candy drinks is tied closely to childhood memories. Birthday parties with soda fountains, summer afternoons on the porch, and the simple thrill of cracking open a bottle that hissed and bubbled. Today, they're banned, replaced by more regulated versions with natural flavors and fewer dyes. But that doesn't make the memory any less sweet. In a way, they remind us of a time when indulgence was a little louder, a little brighter, and decidedly more fizzy. Looking back, you can almost taste the bubbles, and for a brief moment, you're transported to that electric, sugary 1970s glow. Artificially colored gummies. In the candy jars and lunch boxes of the 1970s, artificially colored gummies were the ultimate treat. Tiny, chewy morsels bursting with flavor and a rainbow of colors that seemed almost too bright to be real. Kids would line them up by hue, trading orange for red or blue for green, as if managing their own miniature stock market of sugar and color. These gummies weren't just candy, they were little experiments in joy, each bite delivering a mix of chewy satisfaction and a visual feast that made snacking an event. The appeal was instant and undeniable, a playful combination of taste, texture, and the mesmerizing glow of neon food dyes. Behind their eye-popping appearance, however, was a cocktail of artificial dyes and chemicals that would eventually fall out of favor with regulators. Red, number 2, yellow, number 5, and other synthetic colorings were once celebrated for making treats more fun. But studies later linked some of them to health concerns, leading to bans and recalls. Back then, though, few gave it a second thought. These gummies were a staple at birthday parties, in candy dishes at diners, and as the sweet centerpiece of Halloween hauls. The nostalgia tied to artificially colored gummies isn't just about flavor, it's about the memories they evoke. The excitement of tearing open a wax paper bag to reveal a rainbow of gummy bears or worms, the friendly barter of swapping a green worm for a red bear, the delight of sharing something so small yet so exuberant. All of it carries a warmth that modern, more regulated candy can't quite replicate. Today, gummies still exist, but the vibrancy of their 1970s predecessors is a thing of legend, a reminder of a decade unafraid to color life, literally and figuratively, in the brightest, boldest shades imaginable. Choco Fun Bars with banned additives. In the snack aisles of the 1970s, Choco Fun Bars were a decadent, eye-catching treat that promised a sweet escape from the ordinary. Wrapped in shiny foil and boasting a chocolate coating with gooey fillings, these bars were marketed as a little adventure in every bite. Kids and adults alike were drawn to their bold flavors, sometimes combining chocolate, caramel, and a hint of fruitiness, all in one convenient, portable snack. For many, Choco Fun Bars weren't just candy. They were a small rebellion, a sweet indulgence snuck between homework or during after-school adventures. What made these bars so vivid, beyond their playful packaging, were the additives tucked into every layer. Artificial colorings, flavor enhancers, and chemical preservatives, some now banned, were used to keep the bars vibrant, chewy, and long-lasting. Ingredients like cyclamates or red No. 2 added a sugary punch that made each bite more thrilling, though regulators later deemed them unsafe. In their heyday, though, these bars were celebrated for pushing the limits of flavor and fun, embracing a more is more philosophy that fit perfectly into the experimental spirit of 1970s food culture. The nostalgia surrounding Choco Fun Bars is deeply tied to memory. The thrill of unwrapping a shiny package, the rich aroma of chocolate mingling with sweet fillings, and the sticky fingers left behind as proof of indulgence. Sharing them with friends, or sneaking one as a personal reward, made them more than candy. They were miniature moments of joy. Today, Choco Fun Bars exist only in memory, replaced by safer, milder alternatives. Yet for those who remember, each bar represents a slice of 1970s boldness. A time when snacks didn't just satisfy hunger, they dared to excite, surprise, and delight. Fruit-flavored snack packs with banned dyes. In the 1970s, fruit-flavored snack packs were a lunchtime sensation, transforming school lunches and after-school snacks into a colorful adventure. Each small plastic cup brimmed with gelatin or fruit-flavored treats, their vivid reds, yellows, and greens practically glowing under the cafeteria lights. Kids didn't just eat them, they played with them, stacking the cups, comparing colors, or trading flavors with friends like tiny treasures. These snack packs were convenient, portable, and almost irresistibly fun, perfectly capturing the era's love of bright, playful foods that felt a little futuristic. What made them so visually striking, however, were artificial dyes that would eventually be banned. red number 2, yellow number 5, and other synthetic colorings gave these snacks their signature rainbow hues. But later, studies revealed potential health risks, leading regulators to pull them from shelves. In their heyday, though, few worried about chemistry. The focus was on taste, fun, and the thrill of seeing your snack practically sparkle. Parents appreciated the convenience, kids loved the sweet flavors, and the packaging itself became part of the experience. Pop-off lids, spoon-friendly cups, and sometimes even collectible designs that added a hint of excitement to a routine treat. The emotional pull of these fruit-flavored snack packs lies not just in flavor, but in memory. They recall lunchroom chatter, sticky fingers, and the simple pleasure of a snack that felt like a miniature celebration. Today, the bright neon colors of the original packs are gone, replaced by natural dyes and safer ingredients. But the nostalgia remains. For many, these little cups are a portal back to a time when snacking was an event, not just a routine, and when the colors on your plate could brighten not only your food, but your entire afternoon. Bubblegum with cyclamates. In the carefree afternoons of the 1970s, bubblegum was more than a treat. It was a ritual, a way to pass the time with friends, blow impossibly large bubbles, and test the limits of chewing endurance. Among the shelves of bright wrappers and novelty flavors, some bubblegums contained cyclamates, an artificial sweetener celebrated for its intense sweetness and calorie-free allure. These gums promised endless chew without the sugar crash, making them a parent-approved indulgence, while still delighting kids with their playful textures and flavors. Cyclamates, however, would soon fall from favor. Studies linked them to health concerns, leading to bans in the United States. Yet in their day, they represented the cutting edge of food science. Chewing a piece of bubblegum was a small act of participation in this era of experimentation, where manufacturers pushed boundaries to create sweeter, longer-lasting, and more colorful confections. The gum itself came in vivid colors, often neon pink or blue, and each piece carried a hint of nostalgia. The faint aroma of artificial fruit, the satisfying snap as it unwrapped, and the sticky delight that coated fingers and lips alike. Beyond flavor, the gum evokes the social rituals of the time. Trading pieces at recess, competing to see who could blow the biggest bubble, or simply sneaking one as a secret reward. Today, bubblegum with cyclamates is a relic, replaced by modern sweeteners and stricter food regulations. Yet for anyone who chewed these long-forgotten sticks, the memory is as vivid as the colors themselves. It's a reminder of a decade unafraid to experiment, where a simple piece of gum could be a tiny thrill, a shared joy, and a chewy taste of 1970s ingenuity. Sugar-coated corn puffs. In the morning routines of the 1970s, sugar-coated corn puffs were a breakfast revelation, transforming a simple bowl of cereal into a glittering, sweet experience. Each puff, light, airy, and coated with a shimmering layer of sugar, promised an energetic start to the day, while the crunch delivered a playful contrast to the milk it would soon soak up. These cereals weren't just about sustenance, they were about joy, color, and the occasional guilty pleasure before school, offering kids a spark of excitement in an otherwise ordinary morning. The secret behind their dazzling appeal was a mix of sugar, artificial flavors, and synthetic colorings, some of which were later banned due to health concerns. Red, number 2, yellow, number 5, and other dyes gave the Corn Puffs their candy-like glow, making the cereal almost irresistible to young eyes. In the 1970s, regulations were looser, and these bright, sugary breakfasts were embraced by families as a convenient, fun, and affordable way to start the day. Parents may have raised an eyebrow at the sugar content, but the occasional indulgence fit neatly into weekend breakfasts or after-school snacks. Nostalgia for sugar-coated Corn Puffs is rooted in more than just flavor. It's tied to memory. The sound of the cereal pouring into a bowl, the first sweet bite before the milk dissolved the sugar coating, and the thrill of eating a treat that masqueraded as breakfast all contribute to a vivid recollection of childhood mornings. Today, cereals are more regulated, with natural colors and reduced sugar, but the sparkle and audacious sweetness of the original Corn Puffs remain iconic. For those who remember, each puff represents a time when breakfast was playful, indulgent, and unapologetically bright. A small, sugary celebration in the heart of the 1970s. Rainbow cereal with red number 2. In the colorful world of 1970s breakfast aisles, rainbow cereal was a spectacle you couldn't ignore. Each box promised a bowl of vibrant, multi-hued loops or flakes, a breakfast so visually exciting it practically sparkled under the fluorescent supermarket lights. For kids, pouring a bowl of rainbow cereal was a daily thrill. Watching the colors swirl together as milk pooled at the bottom, then eagerly digging in for the first sweet bite. It was more than a meal. It was an experience, a small daily celebration of color, sugar, and childhood imagination. The secret behind that radiant rainbow was red number 2. A synthetic dye used to create the deep crimson hue in the cereal. Alongside other artificial colorings, it gave the breakfast its signature eye-catching look. But red number 2 would eventually be banned after studies raised health concerns. At the time, though, little thought was given to the chemicals. Families were enchanted by the spectacle, and children were mesmerized by the bright, candy-like loops. It fit perfectly into a decade that loved audacious flavors and bold visuals, reflecting the era's fascination with novelty and indulgence in everyday life. The nostalgia tied to rainbow cereal extends beyond taste. It evokes memories of Saturday mornings spent watching cartoons with a spoon in one hand and a bowl of Sweet Loops in the other, or of trading pieces with siblings to assemble the perfect color combination. Today, cereals are safer and often more subdued in appearance. But those who remember rainbow cereal with red number 2 recall the sense of wonder it brought. Each colorful loop wasn't just food, it was a tiny adventure, a sugary celebration of childhood, and a vivid reminder of a time when breakfast could be bright, bold, and unapologetically fun. Vitamin-fortified oats with unsafe preservatives. In the health-conscious yet experimental kitchens of the 1970s, vitamin-fortified oats became a pantry staple for families striving to balance nutrition with convenience. Promoted as a wholesome, energizing breakfast, these oats promised more than just sustenance. They were packed with synthetic vitamins, minerals, and preservatives designed to extend shelf life and appeal to the era's growing fascination with fortified foods. Parents appreciated the health angle, while kids, often less concerned with nutrition, were drawn to the subtly sweet flavors and soft, comforting texture. It was breakfast that felt both responsible and approachable. A product of a decade that embraced innovation in every aisle of the grocery store. The downside, discovered only later, was in the preservatives. Chemicals intended to prevent spoilage and maintain color stability were later deemed unsafe, raising concerns about long-term consumption. At the time, however, these additives went largely unquestioned. The oats were convenient, shelf-stable, and consistent, qualities that made them a favorite in busy households. Their bright packaging and fortified label conveyed modernity and reassurance, reflecting a culture eager to marry science with daily life. Nostalgia for vitamin-fortified oats isn't only about taste. It's about memory and routine. Parents spooning steaming oats into bowls on cold mornings. Children stirring in a swirl of brown sugar or fruit. And the aroma filling the kitchen all create a sense of comfort and care. Today, oats are generally free of the harmful preservatives of the past, replaced by simpler, more natural formulations. Yet for those who remember, these fortified breakfasts represent a time when convenience, science, and the promise of better health converged in a humble bowl, an emblem of 1970s ingenuity and the era's distinctive approach to feeding the family. Cyclamate sweeteners for baking. In the 1970s, cyclamate sweeteners were a kitchen marvel, celebrated for their intense sweetness and calorie-free appeal. Home bakers and busy parents alike turned to cyclamates as a way to make cakes, cookies, and puddings that satisfied the sweet tooth without piling on sugar. Imagine opening a small tin of the fine white powder, measuring a pinch or two into a mixing bowl, and watching it dissolve invisibly into batter, promising a perfectly sweet result with none of the guilt, or so everyone thought. These sweeteners were marketed as modern scientific solutions, perfectly in line with a decade that adored convenience, innovation, and a little experimentation in the kitchen. The problem, however, was in the chemistry. Cyclamates were later banned in the United States after studies linked them to potential health risks, particularly concerns about bladder cancer. In their heyday, though, these sweeteners were ubiquitous, appearing not just in home baking, but also in soft drinks and processed foods. A testament to the era's enthusiasm for artificial additives and dietary shortcuts. For families striving to balance health, economy, and flavor, cyclamates offered a tantalizing solution, a way to indulge without the sugar rush. The nostalgia surrounding cyclamate sweeteners goes beyond their taste, or lack thereof. They recall evenings spent baking with parents, the aroma of vanilla and butter filling the kitchen while children stirred the batter, proudly anticipating the finished dessert. Today, cyclamates are largely a relic, replaced by safer alternatives like Saccharine or sucralose. Yet their memory lingers as a symbol of 1970s culinary curiosity. For those who remember, baking with cyclamates wasn't just about sweetness. It was a small adventure, a taste of experimentation, and a reflection of a decade unafraid to push the boundaries of flavor, science, and convenience. Saccharine tablets. In the 1970s, saccharine tablets were a fixture in kitchens, coffee mugs, and lunch boxes, celebrated as a zero-calorie solution for sweetening everything from morning coffee to afternoon iced tea. Tiny, chalky squares promise the taste of sugar without the calories, appealing to dieters, health-conscious parents, and kids experimenting with sweet flavors in school lunches. They were emblematic of the decade's fascination with science meets convenience, a chemical shortcut that allowed people to indulge without guilt. Saccharine tablets came in small tins or foil packets, easy to carry, easy to use, and easy to forget until a spoonful of coffee or a piece of cereal needed a quick sweet lift. Despite their convenience, saccharine carried a controversial reputation. Studies in the 1970s linked high doses to health risks in laboratory animals, sparking debates about safety and leading to warning labels on packages. Still, for most families, the appeal outweighed the concern. After all, a tiny tablet in a cup of tea seemed far removed from any laboratory experiment. Saccharine became part of daily rituals, sprinkling a tablet into coffee, measuring carefully into gelatin desserts, or sneaking a sweet cube into cereal before mom noticed. It was a symbol of resourcefulness, a little kitchen magic that made life sweeter without the sugar. Nostalgia for saccharine tablets goes beyond taste. It evokes the culture of experimentation and convenience that defined the era. They remind us of a time when artificial sweeteners were celebrated, when packaging promised modernity and health, and when a small chalky tablet could transform a drink into a treat. Today, saccharine remains legal but largely replaced by newer sweeteners. Yet for those who remember, each tablet carries the memory of 1970s kitchens. Inventive, practical, and unapologetically sweet. Margarine with high trans fats. In the kitchens of the 1970s, margarine was king of the countertop, a versatile staple that could be spread, melted, or baked with, often touted as a healthier alternative to butter. Its smooth texture and bright yellow hue made it an appealing choice for families aiming to balance flavor, cost, and perceived healthfulness. Housewives and home bakers alike relied on margarine for everything, from slathering on toast to creating flaky pie crusts, rich cakes, and savory casseroles. It was convenient, affordable, and, at the time, considered a modern science-backed product, emblematic of the decade's fascination with processed foods. What most didn't know, however, was that margarine in the 1970s was high in trans fats, created through the hydrogenation process that solidified vegetable oils. These trans fats were later found to contribute to heart disease and other health issues, leading to bans or reformulations decades later. In its heyday, though, margarine was celebrated for its long shelf life, spreadability, and ability to perform almost identically to butter in recipes. It was both a practical choice and a symbol of modern convenience in a rapidly changing food landscape. Nostalgia for 1970s margarine lies not just in taste or texture, but in the memories it evokes. The soft pop of the tub lid, the creamy glide across warm bread, the scent of baked goods enriched with a generous pat, and the sense of family routines built around the kitchen table. Today, trans fat-laden margarine is largely a relic, replaced by healthier alternatives or butter blends. Yet for those who remember, margarine represents more than a spread. It's a reminder of a decade of culinary experimentation, resourcefulness, and the ongoing tension between convenience, flavor, and evolving notions of health. Canned pie fillings with banned preservatives. In the 1970s, canned pie fillings were a miracle of convenience, allowing home bakers to create desserts that looked homemade with minimal effort. Cherry, apple, peach. Each can promise a sweet, juicy filling ready to slip straight into a crust, eliminating hours of peeling, slicing, and simmering. For busy families, these fillings were a godsend, especially during the holidays or for impromptu dessert emergencies. The vibrant colors and syrupy textures made pies visually appealing, while the consistent sweetness reassured bakers that their creations would be crowd pleasers, even if their own skills were modest. The catch, invisible at the time, was in the preservatives. Chemicals used to extend shelf life and maintain color, some of which were later banned, ensured the fillings could sit on supermarket shelves for months without spoiling. BHT, BHA, and other additives gave the fruit a glossy sheen and prevented fermentation, but decades later, regulators raised health concerns, deeming these preservatives unsafe for long-term consumption. Families of the era were largely unaware, embracing the convenience and reliability of canned fillings without a second thought. Nostalgia for these canned pie fillings is more than culinary, it's emotional. They evoke images of kitchens filled with the aroma of baked fruit and sugar, the satisfying sound of a pie crust being filled, and children sneaking spoonfuls of cherry or peach syrup before the pie even reaches the oven. Today, modern fillings are made with natural preservatives or refrigeration methods, but the memory of the convenience, color, and flavor of 1970s canned pie fillings remains vivid. For many, they are a symbol of ingenuity and practicality, a reminder that even processed foods carry warmth, tradition, and the promise of sweet moments around the family table. Pickled products with excess sodium additives. In the 1970s, pickled products were a staple in pantries, celebrated for their tangy flavors, long shelf life, and ability to elevate even the simplest meals. From crunchy dill pickles to sweet and sour pickled vegetables, these jars added zest to sandwiches, salads, and family dinners. Housewives and home cooks alike relied on pickled products not just for flavor, but for practicality. They could be stored for months, ready to transform ordinary ingredients into something memorable. The bright jars, often stacked neatly on shelves, were as much a visual delight as a culinary one, promising a burst of taste with every bite. What was less apparent at the time was the heavy use of sodium-based preservatives. High levels of salt and chemical additives ensured that the pickles remained crisp, colorful, and free from spoilage, But decades later, nutritionists and regulators highlighted the health risks associated with excessive sodium consumption. In the 1970s, however, the focus was on convenience, longevity, and flavor intensity. The briny tang of pickled cucumbers or beets was considered a mark of quality, and few questioned the chemistry behind the crunch. Nostalgia for these pickled products goes beyond taste. It's about memory and ritual. Opening a jar and hearing that satisfying pop, reaching for a crunchy spear with your sandwich, or sneaking a bite straight from the jar after school evokes a sense of simple pleasures. Today, pickled products are often made with reduced sodium or natural preservation techniques. But for those who remember, the bold flavors of 1970s pickles capture an era of resourcefulness, experimentation, and unapologetically intense taste. A reminder that sometimes a little salt was the secret to making life flavorful. Soda with banned artificial colors. In the 1970s, soda wasn't just a drink. It was a spectacle in a bottle or can, a vibrant swirl of colors that practically shouted fun before you even took a sip. Bright reds, neon oranges, electric blues. These sodas promised more than refreshment. They promised excitement, a sugary thrill that could turn an ordinary lunch or afternoon break into a small celebration. Kids and teens flocked to corner stores, eyeing the colorful bottles, while parents marveled at the novelty, sometimes raising an eyebrow at the electric hues, but rarely resisting the sweet allure. The secret behind these vivid sodas was artificial coloring, including dyes like red number 2 and yellow number 5, some of which were later banned due to health concerns. At the time, regulations were lenient, and manufacturers embraced boldness, using colors to make flavors pop and create a visual spectacle that complemented the fizzy, sweet taste. The bright hues were almost irresistible, enhancing the sense of indulgence and making each sip feel like a playful experiment in flavor and color. Nostalgia for these sodas isn't just about taste, it's about memory. The hiss of a freshly opened bottle, the sparkle of carbonation, the sticky residue left on fingers and lips, and the simple joy of sharing a neon-colored drink with friends all evoke a time of carefree indulgence. Today, sodas are more regulated, often using natural colors or less intense dyes, but the memory of those vividly colored bottles remains potent. For those who remember, each can or bottle wasn't just a beverage, it was a tiny fizzy adventure, a sweet, brightly colored symbol of 1970s fun and culinary audacity. Powdered drink mixes with unsafe additives. In the 1970s, powdered drink mixes were a household staple, promising a burst of flavor with just a scoop stirred into water. Lemonade, fruit punch, grape, or cherry, these powders transformed plain water into a sweet, colorful treat that delighted kids and offered convenience for busy parents. Perfect for school lunches, summer afternoons, or family picnics, they were easy to store, simple to prepare, and guaranteed a consistent taste every time. The bright, colorful powders themselves were almost mesmerizing, spilling a rainbow into the cup before dissolving into a fizzy or smooth drink that felt like liquid fun. The secret behind the vivid hues and intense flavors was a mix of artificial colorings, flavorings, and preservatives, some of which were later banned due to safety concerns. Ingredients such as red number 2 or yellow number 5 made the drinks visually striking, while chemical additives extended shelf life and ensured consistency, though decades later they were found to carry potential health risks. At the time, families embraced these mixes for convenience and novelty, rarely questioning the science behind the sweetness or the brilliant colors. Nostalgia for powdered drink mixes lies not only in taste, but in memory. They evoke afternoons spent stirring a cup for a sibling, the sticky hands and counter spills of enthusiastic preparation, and the simple joy of sipping a vibrant, sweet beverage under the summer sun. Today, powdered drinks are often made with natural colors and flavors, but the memory of those neon mixes endures. For many, they represent a uniquely 1970s combination of convenience, whimsy, and audacious flavor, a tiny, colorful emblem of childhood ingenuity and the era's fearless approach to food experimentation. Alcohol-free cocktail mixes with banned flavorings. In the 1970s, alcohol-free cocktail mixes were the life of family gatherings, backyard parties, and holiday celebrations. Bottled and powdered mixes promised the sophistication of a cocktail without the alcohol, letting kids, teens, and designated drivers join in the festive fun. Flavors like Sunset Punch, Tropical Breeze, and Citrus Fizz were bright, sweet, and often neon-colored, making each glass feel like a miniature celebration. Parents appreciated the convenience. No muddling of fruit or measuring spirits, while kids reveled in the novelty of sipping something that looked grown up and sparkled in their plastic cups. What made these mixes so striking were flavoring additives that are now banned. Chemicals designed to mimic citrus, cherry, or tropical fruit created intense, consistent taste profiles that the natural ingredients of the time couldn't reliably replicate. Some of these synthetic flavorings were later linked to health concerns, leading to regulatory bans. But in the 1970s, they were embraced as part of the era's love of convenience, innovation, and bigger, brighter, sweeter experiences. The powders or syrups often came in bold packaging, their marketing promising fun, sophistication, and family-friendly indulgence all in one. Nostalgia for alcohol-free cocktail mixes extends beyond flavor. They recall the ritual of pouring a fizzy drink into a glass, the clink of ice cubes, the smiles of siblings sharing a mocktail, and the sense of inclusion in adult festivities. Today, such mixes are typically made with natural flavors and fewer artificial additives. Yet, for those who remember, they evoke a unique moment in culinary history, a time when science and sweetness combined to make every sip festive, whimsical, and undeniably 1970s. TV dinners with harmful preservatives. In the 1970s, TV dinners were a marvel of convenience, transforming the way families ate at home. Aluminum trays filled with neatly compartmentalized portions of meat, vegetables, and starches promised a complete meal in minutes, perfect for busy parents and the growing television culture. The appeal was undeniable. No cooking mess, no waiting, just pop it in the oven, set the table, and enjoy a ready-made dinner in front of your favorite show. For many, TV dinners were synonymous with modern living, a symbol of efficiency and a little touch of futuristic indulgence in suburban kitchens. The hidden secret behind this convenience, however, was in the preservatives. To ensure these meals could survive months in frozen or refrigerated storage, manufacturers relied on chemical additives, some of which were later deemed harmful. These preservatives kept flavors consistent, textures acceptable, and meals visually appealing. But decades later, health concerns led to reformulations and stricter regulations. In the 1970s, though, few questioned the science behind the trays. Families were enchanted by the practicality, the novelty, and the reassurance that a complete dinner could be had at the push of a button. Nostalgia for TV dinners goes beyond convenience. It's about the memories they evoke. The metallic scent of the tray warming in the oven. The anticipation of uncovering perfectly arranged portions. And the ritual of eating in front of the television all create a vivid image of 1970s domestic life. Today, frozen meals are generally healthier and free from the harmful preservatives of the past. But for those who remember, TV dinners represent an era of ingenuity, resourcefulness, and the bold embrace of convenience. A symbol of a time when technology and food combined to reshape family mealtime. Frozen chicken nuggets with phosphates. In the 1970s, frozen chicken nuggets were a revolutionary addition to the freezer aisle, promising quick, tasty meals that could please picky eaters and busy families alike. Golden, breaded, and perfectly shaped, they seem to appear almost magically from the freezer to the oven, offering a convenient alternative to cooking a whole chicken. Kids adored the fun shapes and crispy coating, while parents appreciated the time saved on meal prep. These nuggets embodied the decade's fascination with convenience foods, reflecting both a desire for speed and a new era of industrialized, ready-to-eat meals. What most families didn't realize was the role of phosphates, chemical additives used to improve texture, retain moisture, and extend shelf life. While these compounds made chicken nuggets juicier and more consistent in quality, some phosphates were later scrutinized for health concerns, especially with overconsumption. In the 1970s, however, such additives were celebrated for their ability to enhance flavor and appearance, turning frozen poultry into a seemingly gourmet snack that could hold its shape and taste after weeks in the freezer. Nostalgia for frozen chicken nuggets isn't just about taste, it's about memory. The thrill of opening the oven to reveal golden, crispy pieces, the playful dipping sauces, and the shared joy around the family table all evoke the simple pleasures of childhood and the convenience-focused culture of the era. Today, frozen nuggets are often made with fewer additives and cleaner ingredients. Yet for those who grew up with them, 1970s chicken nuggets represent a small culinary revolution, an emblem of innovation, practicality, and the joy of bringing the promise of fast, flavorful meals straight from freezer to plate. Frozen pies with artificial colors. In the 1970s, frozen pies were a pantry staple, offering families a quick and visually striking dessert option without the hours of preparation that homemade pies demanded. Cherry, blueberry, and even multi-fruit varieties came in neat aluminum tins, their fruit fillings often tinted in vivid reds, purples, and blues that practically glowed under the fluorescent lights of the supermarket freezer aisle. For kids and adults alike, the bright, glossy appearance of these pies was part of the fun. They weren't just a dessert, they were a colorful centerpiece on the family table, promising sweetness and celebration with minimal effort. What gave these pies their bold colors were artificial dyes, many of which would later be banned due to health concerns. Red number 2, yellow number 5, and other synthetic colorings ensured that frozen pies looked appetizing even after weeks in the freezer, while preservatives maintained texture and flavor. In the 1970s, such additives were embraced for convenience and visual appeal, reflecting a culinary culture that prized bold, eye-catching foods alongside practicality. Few questioned the chemicals. The focus was on speed, taste, and a reliable dessert that could satisfy both children and adults. Nostalgia for frozen pies extends beyond flavor. It's tied to memory and ritual. The excitement of pulling a perfectly preserved pie from the freezer, the aroma as it baked, and the delight of slicing into a brightly colored filling evoke images of family dinners, holidays, and quick celebrations of everyday life. Today, frozen pies are often made with natural colors and cleaner ingredients. Yet for those who remember 1970s frozen pies represent a playful, convenient, and slightly daring approach to dessert. A small indulgence that brightened kitchens and imaginations alike. Artificially flavored salad dressings. In the 1970s, salad dressings were undergoing a colorful transformation, as brightly labeled bottles of artificially flavored varieties lined grocery store shelves. From tangy French to zesty Italian, or bold Thousand Island imitations, these dressings promised convenience and flavor in a single pour. Housewives and home cooks appreciated the ease. No need to whisk together oil, vinegar, and herbs from scratch. For families, a drizzle over crisp lettuce, or a simple side salad added a burst of taste that made even the humblest greens feel special. The decade's fascination with convenience foods and bold flavors was on full display in these bottled concoctions, reflecting a culture that loved speed, innovation, and the allure of modern science in the kitchen. The vibrant tastes, however, were largely the work of artificial flavorings, some of which were later banned due to health concerns. Chemical additives were used to mimic natural flavors that were either expensive or inconsistent, ensuring a consistent taste experience for every bottle. In the 1970s, these synthetic ingredients were celebrated, not questioned, offering reliability and a sense of culinary progress. A splash of dressing could instantly elevate a meal, impress guests, or make weeknight salads feel indulgent. Nostalgia for artificially flavored salad dressings isn't just about taste, it's about memory. It recalls the sound of the bottle shaking, the swirl of liquid coating crisp lettuce, and the pride of serving a dish that looked and tasted impressive with minimal effort. Today, salad dressings are often crafted with natural ingredients and cleaner labels. Yet for those who remember, 1970s dressings represent a time of playful experimentation in the kitchen, a reflection of convenience, creativity, and the decade's unique approach to flavor that could turn a simple salad into something extraordinary. Canned gravies with banned additives. In the 1970s, canned gravies were a quick fix for home cooks, seeking convenience without sacrificing flavor, or at least that was the promise. A pour of thick, savory gravy could transform a simple roast, mashed potatoes, or meatloaf into a comforting, hearty meal in seconds. Families relied on these tins to save time during busy weeknights, and their popularity reflected the era's embrace of processed foods that promised consistency, taste, and ease. The glossy, rich brown pour seemed almost magical, turning ordinary dinners into satisfying, complete meals without the fuss of traditional preparation. What gave these gravies their reliable texture and extended shelf life, however, were chemical additives, some later banned due to health concerns. Stabilizers, flavor enhancers, and preservatives ensured the gravy stayed smooth, flavorful, and free from spoilage for months on store shelves. In the 1970s, the focus was on practicality and convenience, and few questioned the ingredients. Families were enamored with the ready-to-use product and the confidence it offered that mealtime would go off without a hitch. Nostalgia for canned gravies extends beyond their taste or convenience. It conjures images of family dinners, the satisfying pour over steaming potatoes, and the soft clatter of spoons stirring in bowls at the table. Today, gravies are often made with cleaner, more natural ingredients. But for those who remember, canned gravies of the 1970s hold a special place in culinary memory. They represent a time when innovation, practicality, and comfort intersected in a tin. An emblem of a decade that sought to make family meals both easier and more indulgent, even if it meant trusting a little science in a can. Hot sauces with harmful preservatives. In the 1970s, hot sauces were gaining popularity beyond their traditional southern or southwestern roots, appearing on grocery shelves across the country in bold, colorful bottles. They promised a fiery kick that could transform bland meals into something exciting, from scrambled eggs at breakfast to beef roasts at dinner. Home cooks and adventurous eaters embraced these sauces for their flavor, convenience, and ability to spice up even the simplest dishes. For many, a dash of hot sauce became a ritual, a way to add personality and heat to meals, while experimenting with a taste that was still relatively novel in many American households. The secret to the widespread shelf life of these sauces was in the preservatives, some of which were later deemed harmful. Chemicals added to prevent spoilage and maintain color made the sauces dependable for months. But over time, concerns about their safety led to bans and stricter regulation. In the 1970s, however, these additives were celebrated as part of the modern food revolution, enabling people to enjoy fiery flavor without worrying about refrigeration or rapid spoilage. Nostalgia for these hot sauces is as much about memory as taste. It evokes the excitement of shaking a bottle over a plate of fries, the tangy aroma wafting through the kitchen, and the playful challenge of trying to handle the heat without making faces in front of family. Today, hot sauces are often crafted with natural ingredients and safer preservation methods, yet the memory of 1970s bottles remains vivid. For those who remember, these sauces symbolize an era of culinary experimentation, a willingness to embrace bold flavors, and a time when a little chemical magic made heat and convenience go hand in hand on the family table. Novelty baking mixes with unsafe ingredients. In the 1970s, novelty baking mixes were a playful and convenient way to bring creativity into the kitchen. From rainbow-colored cakes to pudding pies shaped like animals, these mixes promised a fun, foolproof baking experience that appealed to children, busy parents, and anyone looking to impress without the fuss. The packaging was just as whimsical as the product inside. Bright illustrations, cheerful fonts, and sometimes even interactive gimmicks that made baking feel like a craft project rather than just a chore. For many families, these mixes transformed ordinary kitchens into laboratories of flavor, color, and imagination. The hidden secret behind their appeal and eventual downfall was in the ingredients. Artificial colorings, flavorings, and chemical preservatives were used to ensure vibrant visuals, consistent texture, and extended shelf life. Some of these chemicals were later banned after studies raised concerns about safety. In the 1970s, however, convenience and spectacle outweighed caution, and families eagerly embraced the bright, quirky results without hesitation. A boxed cake that looked like a rainbow, or a molded dessert that jiggled perfectly in the pan, represented the height of modern culinary ingenuity. Nostalgia for novelty baking mixes goes beyond flavor. It's about memory and experience. The excitement of opening a box to reveal powdered magic, stirring in the required ingredients, and watching a fantastical creation emerge from the oven evokes a sense of wonder and accomplishment. Today, mixes are formulated with safer ingredients and more natural colors. But for those who remember, 1970s novelty baking mixes symbolize an era of playful experimentation, creativity, and indulgent fun. A reminder that baking was as much about imagination as it was about food. Snack crackers with banned oils. In the 1970s, snack crackers were more than a quick bite. They were a pantry staple, a lunchtime essential, and sometimes even a party appetizer. Crisp, golden, and often infused with cheese, herbs, or bold seasoning, these crackers promise convenience and flavor in every bite. Children nibbled on them after school. Adults reached for them during office breaks, and families served them alongside soups and salads, making crackers a versatile fixture of daily life. Their appeal lay in their satisfying crunch, portability, and the satisfying way they complemented everything from cheese spreads to cold cuts. What most consumers didn't realize at the time was that many of these crackers were made with partially hydrogenated oils, high in trans fats, or other oils later banned due to health concerns. These fats were used to improve texture, extend shelf life, and maintained that ideal crispness that kept crackers from going stale too quickly. In the 1970s, convenience, taste, and cost-effectiveness took precedence over nutritional scrutiny, and families embraced the products with little thought to long-term health effects. Nostalgia for these snack crackers is tied not just to flavor, but to memory. The crackle of opening a fresh box, the communal sharing around the kitchen table, and the delight of pairing a crunchy bite with a favorite dip evoke a sense of comfort and connection. Today, crackers are often made with healthier oils and cleaner ingredients. But for those who remember, 1970s snack crackers represent a time when convenience, taste, and texture converged in a simple, satisfying package. A crunchy emblem of a decade unafraid to innovate in the pursuit of flavor and fun. Canned tuna with unsafe additives. In the 1970s, canned tuna was a pantry hero, offering families an affordable, protein-packed option for sandwiches, casseroles, and salads. Its convenience made it indispensable. No thawing required, long shelf life, and ready to eat straight from the can. Housewives and home cooks relied on it to feed families quickly, often combining it with mayonnaise, chopped vegetables, or pasta to create meals that were easy, filling, and familiar. Canned tuna became a symbol of modern efficiency in the kitchen, a reliable shortcut in an era when convenience was king. What made this convenience possible were chemical additives and preservatives, some of which would later be deemed unsafe. These ingredients extended shelf life, prevented discoloration, and ensured a consistent flavor that shoppers came to expect. At the time, few questioned the science behind it. The focus was on practicality, taste, and the reassurance that a can of tuna could stand in the pantry for months without spoiling. Families were enchanted by the ease and reliability, blissfully unaware of the health concerns that would emerge decades later. Nostalgia for canned tuna extends beyond flavor. It evokes memories of school lunches, impromptu dinners, and the soft clatter of a tin opening at the kitchen table. Today, canned tuna is typically made with fewer additives and stricter quality standards. But for those who remember, 1970s tuna represents an era of culinary innovation, balancing convenience, affordability, and flavor. It's a reminder that even in processed food, there was resourcefulness, imagination, and a practical approach to feeding families that defined an entire decade of American kitchens. Artificially flavored Jell-O desserts. In the 1970s, Jell-O desserts were a colorful staple of kitchens and lunchboxes, a playful treat that could transform any meal into a whimsical occasion. From bright cherry and lime to neon orange and grape, these gelatin desserts were as visually exciting as they were sweet, often molded into fun shapes or layered for added spectacle. Kids adored them for their wobble, their vibrant colors, and the simple joy of eating something that felt almost like candy, while parents appreciated the ease of preparation. A box of powder, hot water, a bit of chilling, and a perfectly formed dessert was ready to serve. What made these desserts so striking, and later controversial, were artificial flavorings and colorings, some of which were eventually banned. Chemicals like red number 2 or synthetic citrus and berry flavors ensured consistent taste and eye-catching appearance. But decades later, health concerns prompted reformulation. In the 1970s, though, the focus was on fun, convenience, and novelty. And these brightly colored, artificially flavored treats fit perfectly into a culture eager for playful modern foods. Nostalgia for artificially flavored Jell-O desserts isn't just about sweetness, it's about memory. The anticipation of unmolding a perfectly wobbly shape, the gleam of neon colors under kitchen lights, and the laughter of children as the gelatin jiggles on their spoons all evoke a sense of joy and shared experience. Today, gelatin desserts are often made with natural colors and flavors. But for those who remember, 1970s Jell-O represents a time when creativity, convenience, and a little chemical magic combined to make every dessert a moment of delight, imagination, and unabashed fun. Frozen fish sticks with controversial additives. In the 1970s, frozen fish sticks were a convenient miracle for busy households, offering a quick, kid-friendly meal straight from the freezer to the oven. Golden, crispy, and perfectly portioned, they became a go-to for parents looking to feed children with minimal fuss. Served with a squeeze of ketchup or a dash of tartar sauce, these sticks were a modern, time-saving solution that promised both taste and consistency. They were emblematic of a decade obsessed with convenience, efficiency, and the growing frozen food revolution. What made these fish sticks so reliable and controversial were additives used to maintain texture, flavor, and shelf life. Ingredients such as phosphates, stabilizers, and chemical preservatives ensured that the fish remained moist, the coating stayed crisp, and the product survived weeks in the freezer. Many of these additives were later questioned or banned due to potential health risks. But in the 1970s, they were celebrated for their ability to make industrialized food predictable, convenient, and widely accessible. Families were largely unaware of the chemistry behind each bite, focusing instead on the taste and simplicity of preparation. Nostalgia for frozen fish sticks extends beyond flavor. It's about the memories they carry. The excitement of opening a cardboard box to reveal neatly lined sticks, the aroma of golden breading baking in the oven, and the shared joy at the dinner table all evoke a sense of childhood comfort. Today, fish sticks are often made with cleaner, safer ingredients. But for those who remember, 1970s frozen fish sticks represent a moment when innovation, convenience, and a dash of industrial chemistry came together to deliver a simple yet beloved family meal. A crunchy, golden symbol of culinary ingenuity. Soft cheese spreads with banned preservatives. In the 1970s, soft cheese spreads were a lunchtime staple, gracing crackers, sandwiches, and party trays with creamy, flavorful convenience. Tubes and foil-wrapped wedges promised a spreadable delight that didn't require slicing or elaborate preparation. Kids loved the smooth texture and mild taste, while adults appreciated the ease of adding a little sophistication to snacks or hors d'oeuvres. These cheese spreads were emblematic of a decade fascinated by processed foods that combine taste, convenience, and shelf stability, offering a quick way to elevate even the simplest gatherings. The secret to their long shelf life and consistent texture lay in chemical preservatives, some of which were later banned due to health concerns. Stabilizers, emulsifiers, and synthetic additives kept the spreads creamy, prevented spoilage, and ensured the product could sit on shelves or in pantries for months without losing quality. In the 1970s, these additives were embraced as part of modern food science, enabling families to enjoy reliable, hassle-free dairy products without worrying about refrigeration or rapid spoilage. Nostalgia for soft cheese spreads goes beyond flavor. It's about memory. The thrill of twisting open a foil wedge, spreading creamy cheese on a cracker, and sharing it with siblings or friends evokes afternoons of snacking and informal gatherings. Today, soft cheese spreads are generally formulated with fewer artificial preservatives and cleaner ingredients. Yet for those who remember, 1970s spreads symbolize a time when convenience, flavor, and playful indulgence came together. They are a reminder that even processed foods could bring comfort, creativity, and a little culinary excitement to everyday life. Non-dairy creamers with unsafe chemicals. In the 1970s, non-dairy creamers were a kitchen innovation that promised creamy coffee shop-style beverages without the need for milk or cream. Powdered or liquid, these convenient substitutes were ideal for households seeking long shelf life, affordability, and consistency in flavor. A quick stir into morning coffee transformed a plain cup into a smooth, rich drink, perfect for busy families or anyone on the go. Their bright packaging and modern branding reflected the decade's fascination with convenience, processed foods, and products that promise to make everyday life easier and tastier. The secret behind these creamers, however, was a combination of chemicals designed to mimic dairy fat, stabilize texture, and extend shelf life, some of which were later deemed unsafe. Ingredients like hydrogenated oils, emulsifiers, and synthetic additives ensured that each cup looked creamy, poured smoothly, and stayed stable on the shelf. In the 1970s, such chemical engineering was celebrated as science improving everyday life. Concerns about health risks were largely overlooked in favor of flavor, convenience, and novelty. Nostalgia for non-dairy creamers extends beyond taste. It's about the morning rituals and small comforts of daily life. The act of spooning or pouring creamer into a steaming cup, watching it swirl into creamy patterns, and savoring that first rich sip evokes memories of family breakfasts, office coffee breaks, and shared moments around the table. Today, non-dairy creamers are formulated with safer ingredients and cleaner labels. Yet for those who remember, 1970s creamers represent a time when convenience, ingenuity, and chemistry converged to create a little daily luxury. A reflection of an era unafraid to experiment in pursuit of flavor, ease, and modern living. Breakfast syrups with banned dyes. In the 1970s, breakfast syrups were more than just a topping. They were a spectacle of color and sweetness that transformed pancakes, waffles, and French toast into indulgent, eye-catching treats. Bright red, vivid orange, or neon green, these syrups weren't shy about standing out on the breakfast table. Children delighted in the spectacle, drizzling the sticky liquid over stacks of pancakes and watching the colors swirl and mix, while parents marveled at how a simple syrup could make a morning meal feel festive and fun. Convenience, flavor, and visual appeal all combined to make these syrups a staple of the era. What made them so visually striking and later controversial were synthetic dyes, some of which were eventually banned due to health concerns. Red number 2, yellow number 5, and other artificial colorings ensured that every bottle poured a consistent, vibrant stream. But decades later, regulators determined these chemicals were unsafe for consumption. In the 1970s, however, families embraced the colors and flavor without hesitation, celebrating the novelty and boldness of these sweet, sticky additions to breakfast. Nostalgia for breakfast syrups with banned dyes isn't just about taste, it's about memory. The excitement of opening a bottle, the cheerful swirl of color across a hot stack of pancakes, and the sticky fingers that followed evoke images of carefree childhood mornings and shared family rituals. Today, syrups are typically made with natural colors and flavors, but for those who remember, 1970s breakfast syrups symbolize a time of culinary experimentation, playful indulgence, and bold visual flair, a sugary, colorful emblem of a decade unafraid to make breakfast both fun and memorable. As we've seen, the 1970s were full of bold flavors, bright colors, and curious ingredients, some so wild they're banned today. From fizzy candy drinks to neon syrups and chemically enhanced snacks. These items remind us just how adventurous, and sometimes risky, our food used to be. If this trip down memory lane sparked your curiosity or made you nostalgic for a wilder kitchen era, don't forget to like and share this video. Hit subscribe to catch more fascinating stories about forgotten foods, culinary history, and the strange treats of decades past.